Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. We have another week of football on the schedule. It is week 7, and joining us to find you winning bets is Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you on this Saturday? How are you on this Saturday night?
Hey, I'm doing good, bro. I'm looking at parlays. I got a little greedy last week. Combined a few too many same game parlays into the same bet. So I'm going to try to be a little less greedy this week. Just try to make a little bit of easy money instead of going for the home runs.
I ended up hitting a 3-leg parlay and a 4-leg parlay, so it was nice to get back on the green side after a couple of pretty mediocre weeks.
Absolutely.
We have 2 teams on the bye, the Chicago Bears and the Dallas Cowboys, and we have a game in the books. The Denver Broncos blew out the New Orleans Saints. Jimmy, anything you want to say about the Thursday night game?
Not really. In the second half, Rattler looked a little better, but the Saints look really bad. Broncos offense still doesn't look good, but they have a kicker in the defense, and that'll win you a few games in the league.
That is very true, but I don't want to talk about those teams very much. New Orleans stinks. They're who we thought they were despite their 2-0 start, and Denver's a pretty mediocre team. Maybe they'll be a team that sneaks into the playoffs if they can win a couple of games they shouldn't, but they're not anybody to take seriously.
No.
Speaking of teams we shouldn't really take seriously, the Cleveland Browns are playing the Cincinnati Bengals. It's the Battle of Ohio, Jimmy. The Cincinnati Bengals come into this game not really a very good team, and the Cleveland Browns come into this as not a very good team. I talked to you before we started recording, and I said I wanted to pitch to you an idea of what I would do if I was the owner of the Cleveland Browns. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
So if I'm owner of the Cleveland Browns, starting this Sunday, my first move is to put Ken Dorsey in charge of play calling and developing the offense. That's what he was brought here to do. That is what he should be doing because the mismatch between DeShaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski is not doing anything to help anyone. And continuing to try to do that seems to be a fool's errand. There is a time limit on this. I'm giving Dorsey maybe 6 games. And then if DeShaun Watson doesn't look any better, Ken Dorsey's fired and Paul DePodesta is also going to be fired. What do you think of the first part of that?
I like it.
I just think you're stuck with Watson for at least this year and next year before you can even possibly think of moving off of him. You have to try to make it work with him. So that's the first way to try to make it work. After that, it's Watson is benched. And I want to see what the offense looks like for the remainder of the season, which would be like another 5, maybe 6 games, because they've played, 6 games? So 6. So that'd be the last 5 games. I want to see what it looks like with Jameis Winston. And then if the offense continues to struggle and look abysmal, then in the offseason, Kevin Stefanski can go as well. And Andrew Berry can go as well. And I'm starting over. And I'm basically looking at it as Deshaun Watson's going to have to compete with somebody to be the starting quarterback next year.
That is probably the bold type of move that needs to be made. So I'll co-sign it for sure.
The other thing that I would say with that is I don't care if Deshaun Watson doesn't like being a backup for those final 5 games. I'm making him show up. I'm making him suit up. And if he doesn't, I'm using it as a means to get out of his contract.
Yeah.
And that's basically where we're at. I don't know any other thing they can do that makes any sense because right now his play is so bad, it is affecting everything in that locker room, including the Amari Cooper trade. I was kind of surprised that they were able to get a 3rd-round pick for him. I know they actually had to send out a 6th or swap 6th and 7th. So they kind of got like a late 3rd, which is kind of really more like a 4th when you count in the fact that they traded a 6 for a 7. What did you think of that trade, Jimmy?
Oh, it doesn't surprise me that Buffalo gave up a 3rd for a guy who just a few months ago was considered one of the top 5 to 10 veteran wide receivers in the league.
I think he's still that or can be that.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I don't think the play of anybody on these Deshaun Watson Browns teams right now is going to be held against the person as part of their resume.
I think Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy are who we thought they were.
Yeah, Yeah, I have no idea what happens at wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. Like, it's going to be pretty bad, I think. I mean, these aren't guys who get open all the time. I don't know. Like, this offense, losing Amari, I know he's dropping balls. You can see the body language, all that, but, man, losing Amari, it's going to be a problem.
Well, you would think those guys, Moore and Tillman and Judy, would be, a little extra motivated to come out and say, hey, this is what we can do. This is who we are. And maybe they do, but I don't expect them to show anything over any length of time because these guys, well, Tillman hasn't, but Moore and Judy have been in the league for several years now, and underachieving is what they do. So even if they come out this weekend and all of a sudden the offense looks good, it's not like we're going to have any faith that that's going to happen moving forward.
No, because I don't think you can just put either one of them in that position Amari was in and expect the same openness.
No, they're not the route runners he is.
Yeah, even in the balls Amari was dropping, he was mostly open.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's just been some outbreaking routes that Watson's just missed by 5 yards.
Yeah.
And I don't. You can just see like Cooper was just like, look, man, I'm trying to get a contract here, and I'm kind of pissed about the. He's pissed in the same way Baker was, and it's the same thing the front office does, where they treat these players like assets instead of treating them like human beings. And I know they reworked his deal, and and it's the same thing they did with Baker, where they're like, you know what, you're going to be the starting quarterback, and we'll let you know if we go talk to somebody. And then Baker finds out when the rest of us do, because ESPN reports it, that they're going to talk to DeShaun Watson. And he's like, what the fuck? You said you were going to let me know if you talked to somebody. Same thing, and then this happens with Cooper, where he's like, I want a new contract. They're like, well, I'll tell you what, we'll rework your deal so you can get some more upfront money. And he's like, okay, cool. That way I can finish out this year. And then they're trying to trade him and sign the guy they're going to trade him for to the extension that he wanted.
Yep.
It's just, they just don't treat people. It's like they treat the people who have worked hard and produced in a bad way, while they've rewarded people who have done nothing for this franchise. Jerry Jeudy gets the extension. Cooper, coming off of 2 great years, doesn't. Baker gets him to the playoffs. They don't give him an extension. They run him out of town, and then we give Watson this big deal. And players see that stuff. Like Jack Conklin got a big extension. Why? Wills, he gets his 5th-year extension number picked up at like $16 million. Like, he's not a $16 million a year player. What the fuck? Go use that money, or use a draft pick to just take 3 left tackles and see which one of them's best. They'll be as good as Wills.
Yeah. I totally agree.
At least we get Nick Chubb back. How much do you expect him to affect the offense?
Well, I mean, I've seen how little the Bills used a running back last year, so very little.
But I mean, I was going to say Stefanski's calling the plays, not Ken Dorsey, but I mean, it's not like we spend most of the time saying, why doesn't Stefanski give Chubb 5 more carries a game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say in the range of 15 touches.
I think they may, if he looks good early, I would expect him to get fed the ball a lot, because I think Stefanski's feeling the heat. And with this being a home game, I think they're going to throw caution to the wind. I think they're going to throw caution to the wind and try everything they possibly can to get a win. And if that means giving the ball to Chubb 25 times and telling Watson you're only throwing it 15, I think they would do it.
I hope you're right. I don't think that's at all what will happen, but I hope you're right.
Yeah, and I hope he comes back and plays really well. Obviously, that knee injury that he had was absolutely gruesome. It was horrible, completely destroyed his knee. He's a beast. If he's at 90% of the player he was before injury, he'll still be a top 5, top 10-ish back and a home run hitter. And if he can be that, then maybe, I don't think there's any saving the season, but maybe he at least gets some. Yeah, it gives him a little juice. He at least gives him somebody that can make a big play out of nothing.
Yeah, maybe they can look functional.
You're three, Jimmy. They're just trying to look functional.
That's all. That's all. Year
It's
three,
all fine. Everything's fine.
still one of the highest paid players in the league, and we're just trying to look functional.
Oh my God. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals are now 5.5 point favorites in Cleveland. This was a 6.5 point line, so it's moved a full point towards the Browns. The over/under is 41.5. Minus 225 on the Bengals, plus 185 for the Browns. Jimmy, what's going to happen on Sunday?
The Bengals' defense is horrible, but we've seen other horrible defenses this year look like the '85 Bears against the Cleveland Browns.
Just the last 2 weeks, Philly and Washington are two defenses that have not looked all that great, and they held the Browns in check.
Even the Raiders and the Giants.
Yep.
And I don't think the Bengals do a lot of things well on offense, and most of what they do well on offense is what the Browns have not been able to defend this year. I mean, I know there's so much history for this current Bengals regime and roster losing to Cleveland. I don't think they lose this week, bud.
I'm conflicted because I don't think Cincinnati's really good enough to be favored by 5.5 against anybody, sort of like what we had last week with Philly, where I know Philly's the better team and I know Cincinnati's the better team this week, but this could very easily be a field goal game. I also think that there's, like I said, a high possibility that they really look to feed Chubb. But on the other hand, if Cincinnati jumps on the Browns early, that crowd is going to be vicious, and they are going to let DeShaun Watson know that they are displeased with his play. I don't know, and at that point, does the whole team fall apart? Maybe.
Yes.
I mean, there's a good chance that Watson's going to hear those boo birds and not know what to do.
I mean, he's shown he doesn't know how to react to that negativity.
But there's going to be so much positivity to start because Chubb's back. When they announce Nick Chubb in the starting lineup, that place is going to explode.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be long-lived. I think it's going to be very short-lived.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Browns have had Cincinnati's number. They've been able to shut down those wide receivers. It seems to be the only wide receiver core that this Browns secondary can really shut down with any consistency. But I'm with you. I think Cincinnati's going to win this game. I think they end up winning by at least a touchdown, even though I think it can be close. Cincinnati, that Browns defense isn't very good either. Just everybody can spare me they got a big block, and like Philly's dysfunctional too.
Yeah.
And when they needed it, what happened? Philadelphia drove right to midfield, and then they got the big play that the Browns defense gives up every single fucking week.
Yep.
If this is a top 5 defense, why do they always give up a big play every week?
Yep. And Burrow is playing so much better than Jalen Hurts. So
yeah, Burrow's playing probably as good a quarterback as we've seen in the league. That offense has certainly not been the problem for them the last couple of weeks when they've lost games.
Yeah.
It's been their defense has just been atrocious.
Yep. So I have a hard time believing that Cleveland's going to be able to get enough stops to take advantage of the bad Bengals defense and keep this within a touchdown. I just have a really hard time with that.
I agree. Any final thoughts on this Cleveland-Cincy game?
I personally believe the Brown season is over, but if you could find a way to use Nick Chubb coming back and do something with the offense and actually score 20 points, and then maybe that lights up the defense a little bit and they do hold the Bengals offense, I think that maybe you could still salvage the season. Maybe you could still turn the season around with a division win against the Bengals. But I feel like a loss to the Bengals here, I feel like it's probably the last straw on everything. If the Bengals win by 2 scores and Burrow throws for 500 yards and DeShaun gives another under 200-yard game, I don't see how you can put him back out on the field next week.
Well, coming up after this week, you get the Ravens and then the Chargers at home. Then you get the bye. Right now, the way Baltimore's playing, I don't know how they could possibly beat Baltimore. And with how the Chargers are playing, that defense is sneaky really good for the Chargers. I don't think people fully realize that because everybody just keeps looking at the offense and going, ugh, all they do is run the ball. Boring, boring, boring. It's like, yeah, it's boring, but they're just grinding teams down and winning.
Yeah, but they're scoring points doing it too. So.
Yeah, and they've got the type of offense that you would like to see the Browns run, where they're running the ball, using their key backs, and using that to set up the pass. And after the bye, man, okay, you get New Orleans. Congratulations. That should be a win. Then you get Pittsburgh at Denver at Pittsburgh. And that's going to be a tough stretch, man, because you play Thursday night in Pittsburgh, then you get Monday night Denver, and then you get Pittsburgh again. Like, that Pittsburgh defense is going to look to swallow you up, and then congratulations, after that 3-game stretch, you get the Chiefs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if they get a win here and you go to 2-5, they're lucky to be 3-6 heading into the bye, and then that 4-game stretch, like, I mean,
I was just trying to find a little bit of hope, a little glimmer.
Yeah, and I just had to crush it.
Yeah, way to go, Hub.
Well, it's what I do best, is crush the dreams of Browns fans. I mean, they're 1-5. They're minus 46 in their point differential, which is among more of, like, the Carolina Panthers are minus 100. Yeah. And Jacksonville's minus 65, and the Patriots are minus 60. And then you get a bunch of teams that are like 40 to 55, and that's where the Browns are. So spare me, they turned everything around if they win this week. Now, if they win the next 3 games, okay, we can start talking about them maybe having turned a corner.
And you can't win all 3 if you don't win the first one.
That is a true statement. We have another London game, Jimmy, and boy, oh boy, is it a fucking stinker. I love it when these games are bad and people post the America hasn't done England this wrong since the American Revolution.
Yep.
The Patriots are facing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, 6-point favorites. Over-under sits at 42, minus 258 for Jacksonville, plus 210 for New England. This line has moved a half point towards Jacksonville from 5.5 to 6. I liked New England when it was 5.5, so I obviously like New England when it was bad. So I obviously like New England now that it's 6. What say you, Jimmy?
Yeah, same. I don't understand how Jacksonville can be favored against anybody in any situation in the NFL right now. Yeah, I'm all over New England here. Yeah,
the new quarterback, Drake May, looked all right. He looked
okay.
It looked like they just needed a change. And I think that's what happens when we've seen this time and time again. Tyrod Taylor and Jacoby Brissett, those guys aren't starters. And when they sit down and you play the rookie, the team looks energized. They're like, oh, we got a guy who can actually do some stuff. So I think, I don't know if they win the game, but New England should definitely keep this game close. And
yeah, for sure.
Does Doug Peterson, I mean, obviously if Doug Peterson isn't coming home with the team, if they lose this game, does he come home if they win it and it's just an ugly, close game?
I don't know. I mean, they've just fallen off so bad. Everything looks bad. I think he may get fired, win or loss, when they get home.
That team's a mess. They need to hire a new coach. Maybe, I don't think Peterson's been calling plays. If I was Peterson, I would take over play calling for this game. Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if that's the thing that's gonna save their season, but if you're gonna go down, you may as well go down with your stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Up next, game of the week. Minnesota at home. The Detroit Lions visiting. This is now a 1.5 point spread. Wow. Minnesota's favored. It was 2.5. Over-under sits at 50.5, minus 120 for the Vikings, plus 100 for the Lions. That Hutchinson injury was gruesome. He's out for the year. What effect do you think that's going to have on that Detroit defense?
It'll have a lot. I think he's a big motor guy, big energy guy. I think he probably makes the defense feel safe because they're still not all that good in coverage, but he gets home so much and disrupts so often that it covers that up. So I think Hutchinson is a big loss because I think Hutchinson could have really rattled Sam Darnold early and often in this game.
I agree.
I'm going to take the Vikings. I think this is actually, in my opinion, this is actually the second game of the week. I think there's another game that's a little...
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about the Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah, but these are likely NFC Championship game possibilities here. These are two teams that are playing well, but it wouldn't surprise me if Karma came back and bit Dan Campbell for the disrespect he showed the Dallas Cowboys last week.
Yeah, they really showed everything. They didn't leave anything in the cupboard. They ran all the trick plays. They really embarrassed Dallas. I like Minnesota in this game really because of the Hutchinson injury. I think both teams are going to be able to move the ball and score, and I just think Minnesota's defense is going to be a little bit better, and they're going to be able to slow down Detroit just a little bit and just enough to get a win here. Unless Sam Darnold has actually turned back into a pumpkin and looks like the quarterback we saw last week.
I mean, it keeps slowly happening, so I can't decide. Like, it's really hard for me.
2 weeks ago. They were on the bye last week.
Yeah, I can't really decide which one of these quarterbacks I want to lose more. But I just think the sudden impact of not having Hutchinson out there is going to be too much for Detroit's defense to overcome.
Up next, another really good game. The Green Bay Packers are hosting the Houston Texans. The Packers, 3-point home favorites. My over-under sits at 48.5, minus 142 for the Pack, plus 120 for Houston. This line shocked me because Houston just seems like this is the bookies are saying Green Bay is either a little bit better or even with Houston on a neutral field, and I actually think Houston would be a little bit better on a neutral field. So I like Houston here. What do you like?
Yeah, same thing. Jordan Love has been doing a lot of Brett Favre impersonation since he came back, like making a lot of great throws and then a lot of oh-no throws. Yeah. And Houston's defense is very opportunistic. I don't think you can make those throws and get away with it. And they've got a kicker that's on absolute fire. CJ Stroud at this point knows if he can get to like the 38-yard line, it's at least 3 points, which really opens up the playbook for him. And Joe Mixon is looking incredible. So yeah, I can't understand really why this is like Packers +3. Like if it was Packers plus or Packers -3, if it was Packers -1.5, that wouldn't surprise me. But I don't understand the 3, so I'm all over the Texans here.
Up next, we have the Buffalo Bills. They are home hosting the Tennessee Titans. They are, depending on where you go, 9.5 to 8.5 point favorites. The VIG's a little different. 9.5, you can get even money. At 8.5 at DraftKings, it's minus 112. However you think. If you think Buffalo's going to blow them out, go ahead and take the 9.5 and get the extra money. The over-under sits at 41, minus 440 for Buffalo, plus 340 for Tennessee. I actually kind of want to like Tennessee in this game, but I think Buffalo's going to blow them out. What do you think?
I don't think Buffalo's going to blow them out. I like Tennessee in the over here.
Tennessee in the over. You know what? You convinced me. I've wanted to take Tennessee because it's been so hard for teams to blow other teams out this year, and that Tennessee defense is pretty good, so they should give Josh Allen some problems.
Yep.
Up next, we have the game that I just had to add into the spreadsheet because I forgot about it because it's so bad. The Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to the Meadowlands to take on the Giants. Eagles 3-point favorites. 42.5 is the over-under, minus 166 for Philly, plus 140 for the Giants. Both of these teams aren't very good. Philadelphia did not look good at all in beating the Browns. They did get some offensive weapons back, but Jalen Hurts looks like he's turning back into the quarterback I always thought he was. I guess I'll take the Eagles because the Giants stink, but I would advise people to just sort of stay away and not watch this game.
Yeah, this is just stay away from this one. I really feel like that. I don't even know if you really want to watch most of this game. It's probably going to be pretty ugly. I guess I'm going to take the Giants, but this is a total stay away from me.
Up next, the Atlanta Falcons are hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Falcons 3-point favorites, 51. Oh, it's up to 51.5 is the over-under, minus 155 for the Falcons, plus 130 for the Seahawks. The Seahawks look like they've really started to struggle after a hot start. I like Atlanta here because they look like they've kind of figured some things out and know what they're doing going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Atlanta just they don't have the guys on defense, so you could probably be pretty safe taking Falcons overs for the rest of the year because their offense is going to score and their defense is pretty bad. But I think they'll come out on the right side of this because I agree. Seattle is struggling now. They don't really seem to quite know what it is they're trying to do. Geno's struggling a little bit, so yeah, I'm all over the Falcons. Yeah, I like that.
Up next, the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Miami Dolphins. Colts are 3-point home favorites. 43.5 is the over-under, minus 148 for the Colts, plus 124 for the Dolphins. We get to see Richardson come back. I don't know if that's a good thing for Indianapolis, but I don't think Miami's very good right now, so I like the Colts.
I'm going to take the Dolphins. This is another stay away from me because there's just so much variance in how these teams look. Because the Colts did not look like the same team with Richardson as they did with Flacco. So
Very
it's hard
true.
to say what they're going to look like. And Miami tried to have some offense last week, so I'll personally be staying away from this. But I'm just going to go opposite you for the pod.
Washington Armada taking on the Carolina Panthers at home. This was a 7.5-point spread. It is now 9.5. The over-under sits at 51.5, minus 470 for the Commanders, plus 360 for the Panthers. Does that 2-point swing take you off the Armada at all, Jimmy?
No, I'd have to get to 14.5 before I'd get nervous.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about Washington being able to put it on Carolina. Carolina stinks. Like I said, they're minus 100 on the year so far. Like, it's not a misprint. Last year they lost by an average of 10 points a game, and this year they're right on track.
Yep.
Our next game sees the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Rams, 7-point favorites. 43.5 is the over-under, minus 355 for the Rams, plus 280 for the Raiders. Devontae Adams is now gone, not like he played this year at all. It looks like Max Crosby may be next, and things look like they're just not going well in Vegas, Tom Brady being an owner notwithstanding.
Yeah, I think the Rams needed the bye so much last week. They got it. They're able to get a little healthy, and things are going to hell for the Raiders. So I think the Rams can win this by 8 or 9. So I'll take the Rams.
I agree. They should get Cooper Kupp back for this game, and that would definitely seal this. If Kupp's on the field, I like them to win this by more than a touchdown.
Yep.
Up next, the real game of the week, the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Kansas City Chiefs in a rematch of last year's Super Bowl that Kansas City won. This was a 1-point spread. Then it was 1.5. Now the 49ers are favored by a full 2 points. Over-under sits at 47, minus 125 on the Niners, plus 105 for the Chiefs. Jimmy, Patrick Mahomes is an awesome, awesome player when it comes to him being an underdog. Does that continue?
Yeah, 100%. We've talked a lot the last couple of years, and we've been doing this podcast, about how much better the AFC is than the NFC. Kyle Shanahan is 0-7 versus the big three teams in the AFC. Yeah. He'll go to 0-8. Patrick Mahomes is a dog, is almost perfect. His numbers are great. The offense is ugly and uninspired. But Andy Reid is one of the few coaches left who I'm sure it annoys the fans of the Chiefs sometimes, but he legitimately seems to know when to kick a field goal, when to put points on the board, can feel the flow of a game like a lot of coaches in the league are having trouble with right now. And I think the Chiefs stay undefeated.
That Chiefs defense is really, really good. And I think the reason Andy Reid is kicking field goals is because he knows if they can get to 20, they're probably going to win.
Yep, I totally agree.
I like the Chiefs. I like this game to go under. I feel like this is probably going to be more of a defensive struggle than people want it to be. I think we're looking at like a 2017, 23-20 type game, which is well under the 47 over-under.
Yeah.
Up next, the New York Jets, with Devontae Adams now on their team, traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Wow, this moved a half point as well. 2-point favorites are the New York Jets on the road. Over-under sits at 39, minus 135 for the Jets, plus 114 for the Steelers. A lot of the things we just said about Patrick Mahomes as an underdog count towards Mike Tomlin as well, Jimmy. Do you expect Mike Tomlin to continue to be good as an underdog?
If they were just going to continue doing what they've been doing this year, I would be all over the Steelers here. this is actually a stay away from me because I gotta see what the hell they look like with Russell Wilson before I
Is
make
he confirmed to be starting, or are they still playing coy?
No, they're still playing coy.
If I see Justin Fields starting, I like Pittsburgh in this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. If I knew for sure Fields was going to be starting, the Steelers would be in every parlay I'm making.
I feel like that defense is going to give Aaron Rodgers a whole lot of problems because I think they're going to hit him early, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers likes getting hit.
We know that.
Up next, the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. Baltimore 3.5-point road favorites. 49.5 is the over/under. -180 for the Ravens. +150 for the Buccaneers. That 3.5, man, they're just begging Baltimore to be up by 10 and Baker get a backdoor cover, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. and I'm all over the Buccaneers here.
Yeah, I like the Buccaneers too because they're going to be able to throw all over that Ravens defense. I mean, I don't know how good they're going to be stopping the Ravens because NFC teams always struggle against Lamar. But
now I don't know. Vita Vea was questionable today, so I don't know for sure if he's going to play. But Tampa has been pretty good against the run. The way to beat them is passing the football, and I'm still not sure yet if this Baltimore offense can win a game where Lamar has to just throw it. Now, that's not to say Baltimore can't impose their will and figure out a way to win running it, but I feel like this turns into a Lamar-Baker shootout, and Baker's came out on the right side of most of those against Lamar with worse teams than he has now. So I'm taking Baker and the Buccaneers to win this sucker outright.
Wow. I don't know if they win it outright. I feel like it's a field goal game. Tampa really found something with the running game last week. They finally got away from White, who he's not a bad running back, but he's very, if you need if you need a yard, I'll get you 3. If you need 5, I'll get you 3. And he just wasn't giving them what they needed.
Yep, I agree with that.
Our final game of the week sees the LA Chargers traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Chargers, 1.5-point road favorites. Over-under sits at 44, -122 for the Charge, +102 for the Cardinals. This just feels like a game that Harbaugh just wins because he's a better coach, and they're like, I don't see how Arizona is going to really be able to slow down the Chargers from doing what they want to do.
Yeah, I don't know. The Cardinals are weird. Like, one week it's like they remember they have Marvin Harrison Jr., and the next week they don't. like they've been scrappy, and they've been scrappy. They've been fighting, but I don't think they'll be able to stay in this game with this Chargers team. Who, if they're mostly healthy, I think this Chargers team is definite playoff win team.
I've got them to make the playoffs, and I've got them on the over for their win total. So I like everything I've seen from them so far.
Yep,
I'm already cashing those bets.
Yeah, they are as advertised with Harbaugh. So I like the Chargers there a lot.
What are you looking at for parlays? I keep looking at the slate and going, man, there's a lot of games that I'm sort of touch or go on. I think I'm going to wind up teasing some of these games to give myself a little bit better chance of winning. What do you like out there?
So I am looking at now. Obviously some of these I will bet the opposite as well. Like if I don't throw a lot at it, but you can get plus money with like teams that are probably going to win. I feel like you take the one I'm looking at the most is the Texans money line, the line parlayed with the Lions money line, the Chiefs money line, the Steelers money line if Justin Fields is starting, and the Buccaneers money line. And even if you want to take the Buccaneers out of that, I can understand.
Yeah.
Like you could get decent odds just on taking them to cover, but I think all of those teams as dogs have a great chance of winning their games, and I think you'd be annoyed Sunday afternoon if you didn't make that bet.
Yeah, I like that. I like that strategy of taking some of the underdogs and parlaying them together because you're not going to win all of those, but you're probably going to win half of them.
Yeah.
Because I would be shocked if Houston, Kansas City, Pittsburgh all lost. I wouldn't be shocked if Tampa loses. But if Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and Houston all lost, that would surprise me. Because I feel like those are three. Well, I mean, Houston's really good. Kansas City's really good. Pittsburgh's good. I think the Jets are a bad team. I just think the Jets are a bad team.
And I think you could, like, if you want to as well, I think you could probably throw, like, even if you felt like about two of them, like personally, like, I absolutely feel like Houston and Kansas City are winning their games.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are money line plays to make right off the bat.
Right. So those are money line plays to make. And then for me, I'm going to throw the Buffalo and the over on Buffalo into that, and the Falcons and the over into that as well. So that'll get you two same-game parlays, which will give you a boost, and that's like a nice 7-leg paying for Christmas kind of bet.
Yeah, and you can throw your 25 and 50% boost that they throw out there every week. Throw some of those on there, and now you're looking really good.
Yep.
What players do you like to shine?
Oh, man, said it last week, and it kind of paid off towards the end, and I'm going to say it again. I love the Bengals pass catchers. I think Joe Burrow will have a huge day. I'm going to focus a lot. I'm going to focus a lot right there. And then the Falcons game, I'm focusing a lot there. And then I do think the Lions and the Vikings will score some points. So I probably like Donald and Goff both to throw a touchdown. Both running backs should run one in. But I think those are the games to focus on, I believe. If you're looking for, like, anytime touchdown scores and over on yards, those are the ones I like.
Yeah, I like both. I like everybody on Detroit and Minnesota. I think they're going to score points. I think that Houston-Green Bay game is going to see some points too.
Yeah.
And I like the under with Pittsburgh and the Jets. I like Kareem Hunt. I'm starting him in fantasy. I think Nick Wright's all over it. This Kansas City Chiefs offense knows they have to run the ball, and they're not afraid to run the ball. And I think Kareem Hunt's going to keep looking really good for them. I like everybody with Washington because Carolina sucks. And I think Atlanta's figuring it out. It seems like Drake London gets a long touchdown every game now. They seem to have figured something out there. Seattle, man, I have DK Metcalf and on my fantasy team, and he's just really been struggling lately. It seems like Geno's kind of reverted back to Geno. That team just doesn't seem to be all that great, and I think the problems are more on defense than offense. And it looks like Walker may not play this weekend too, so that Seattle team may be struggling.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think Seattle's. I think they're gonna take a thumping this week, man.
Yeah, that one could be bad. All right, what are your final thoughts? So I guess I should say one thing as a final thought to the Cincinnati-Cleveland game that just dawned on me. Man, everybody's big on the Bengals right now. Like, I could see the Browns maybe sneaking out a win here to try and prove the doubters wrong for a week. We do see that in the NFL from time to time. We've seen the Browns do that from time to time. Do you have any worry about that happening?
No.
You're like, no, they suck.
No, I like.
And also, we've seen Cincinnati play down to their competition. We just saw it last week.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati is desperate right now, and I don't like desperate Joe Burrow. Like, he's really looks like he kind of has found another gear. They're playing well. To me, and it's a see, you're making me say things I don't even want to say. Because the only way the Browns beat Cincinnati is if they win like 38-35.
Oh, they're not putting 30 points up. They haven't even been able to put up 20.
I agree with you, but of the realm of possibilities, that's the only one I see. Like, they're not going to stop this offense.
Cincinnati's got to win this game if they want to stay in the hunt for the division and if they want to stay in the hunt for the playoffs. Right now, you've got Buffalo with 4 wins, Baltimore, Pittsburgh with 4 wins, Houston with 5, Kansas City with 5. Denver has the extra game. They got to win. The Chargers have 3, Colts have 3, and then everybody else is 2 or less. So you've got to have at least 3 wins after this week if you want any shot to keep if you want any shot of keeping tabs with the guys that are looking for the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and I just don't see, like, and I wish I felt like I believed that Cleveland was going to shut down this offense and they could win this game 17-14. I just don't think you're going to slow down the Bengals offense.
I don't know if they can get to 17. I mean, maybe if they get a defensive
maybe
if they get a defensive touchdown, but they got a defensive touchdown last week and they could only get to 16.
Oh, God, it's so bad to be a Browns fan again.
I know. And then Kevin Stefanski kicked that field goal, and I just remembered thinking about what Greg Easterbrook used to write in Tuesday Morning Quarterback when he had his column, where it's like a team would get down to the 40 and they were down by 5, and then they'd punt. And they'd punt it into the end zone and gain like 21 yards, and he would just say, and I wrote game over in my notebook because they never saw the ball again. Yeah. Like, that's what happened. Yeah, but hey, they got to, they kicked that field goal to get within 4. They still needed a touchdown after kicking the field goal. Jimmy, what the fuck is he thinking?
Oh, they don't understand it. But so here's the only other question I have. Before we wrap up is, do you think, is Kevin Stefanski just absolutely a company man, or will there be a point where he goes, hey, DeShaun, I got some packages for Jameis we're going to try out. Just see how it goes.
Well, no, because you can't even, I'm totally blanking on who it was from The Athletic this week that said you are not allowed to criticize DeShaun Watson in Berea.
Yeah.
That is a hard fact that they will not allow any criticism of him. And as long as they continue to coddle him in the way that they've been coddling him since he got here, he is not going to get better. They need to challenge him, and they need to kick him in the ass. And that's all there is left, because covering for him has not worked. And continuing, we talked about it before the season. Everybody was talking about how it's all set up for DeShaun. They got all these weapons for DeShaun. These guys are all going to be great. Yada, yada, yada. And we said before the season, I said before, because I took the under, we're going to get to like week 7 and they're going to be shitty. And everybody's going to be talking about how, we need to get DeShaun more help. We need to get DeShaun more help. And here we are. You've got the apologists out there saying they need to get him more help. You were the guys that were saying they went out and got him all this help in the offseason, but now they got to get him even more help? Come on, he's not good.
Yep.
He's just not good anymore. The only throw he made last week that was any good, or it wasn't even that good of a throw, but the big play they had was to Judy. Judy was open by 15 yards. Me and you could make that throw.
Yeah.
Everything else was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. It was all dink and dunk because Stefanski doesn't trust him to read the defense and make the right throw.
Yep,
it's
true.
On the tape. And he has reason for that, because it's also on the tape that when he does actually see the field correctly and try to make the throw, he can't do it. He's missing his guys by 5 yards.
Whew, that's a rough critique there, bro.
Show me the lie.
I didn't say it wasn't a true rough critique, but I don't like hearing those words said out loud, okay?
That's fair. I know you don't like it, but I mean, whether you like it or you don't like it, it's what is.
Nobody expected when this trade was made, nobody ever expected that DeShaun would be like the worst DeShaun to ever play quarterback.
Well, this isn't just the worst he's played quarterback. His ranking numbers are like Bryce Young, Jamarcus Russell.
Oh yeah, I know.
The worst quarterbacks of the last 20. Excuse me, the worst quarterbacks of the last 25 years.
They make Kaiser look functional.
Well, maybe karma's a real thing after all.
Oh boy.
On that note, Jimmy, thank you for joining me tonight to talk some football.
Hey, no place I'd rather be. Guardians are up 1-0 right now.
Oh, they scored first for a change. That's nice. And I would like to thank all of you for listening. You can catch our pod. Usually we record early on Saturdays, but I had some stuff going on, so we got done a little late today. So normally we get them out on Saturday mornings, but they'll always be out on Sunday mornings so that you can get your bets in. For Jimmy Champ, I'm Evan Belfiore. Thank you for listening to No Broken Legs.